Welcome to the Income Rebellion, where we create liberating alternatives to status quo career paths by developing values-aligned income streams. My name is Chelsea Canedy, and I'll be supporting you here as you recreate your own income streams to transform your life and your legacy. So today we're going to talk about what does it mean for you to actually go after your purpose when it comes to your career. Particularly, we're going to talk about the 3 hurdles I have seen people go through the most often when it comes to a pivot towards more fulfillment and meaning in your professional life. So there are 3 hurdles to overcome when aligning your career to your purpose. The first is the hurdle of making peace with yourself for not choosing this path sooner. The second is the hurdle of figuring out what it is you actually want to do. And third is the hurdle of action. So figuring out, what do I do now? What actions do I take? Where do I go from here so that I can actually get fulfillment in my reality now? So I'm going to be talking a lot about this idea of purpose because for the month of November in the Income Rebellion membership, we are practicing pivots towards our purpose, and I have a free workshop for you November 8th that's going to be live, so you can sign up for it to understand what your purpose is right now and how you can move past your internalized resistance to go after it. Now, one thing about this workshop is that it's only free if you show up live. If you cannot make the live, the recording is going to be held in the membership, the Income Rebellion membership, so that you can access it anytime. The great thing about being a member is that you're going to get 1,000,000 times more support in achieving your purpose. We have weekly group coaching. We have a ton of resources and supports and bonus resources that I'm always adding to every single month to make sure that your career can go to the next level. Not only that, but you're going to lock in the founding member price of less than $1 a day. It's only $29 a month, and you can cancel it anytime if you don't like it. So I definitely recommend checking that out, especially if you need a little bit of guidance or support in your own professional path. All right, so the first big hurdle is making peace with yourself for not going down the purpose path sooner. And when I say that this holds people back, it prevents people from even starting to look toward their purpose in their career. Now, a lot of times when I work with new clients, the biggest driver for their career is money. Some will say a job is just a job, or they will look at fulfillment and say, that's not really what work is for. We're supposed to work so that we can have, our lives, so that we can have a house, so that we can have a car. And I believe it's time to shift that conversation into something a bit more new. So many of us are acculturated to this idea that work is just the funder for the life that we want to live. We believe that work is here to pay for our family, to pay for the house, pay for the car, or whatever next best cool thing. We believe that work only is supposed to have that function, and if it does have that function, then you can't really expect fulfillment from it. We equate fulfilling jobs, I will say, artistry jobs, creative jobs, impact-driven jobs to a lower paycheck. And we also, as a culture, spend a lot of time preoccupied with the idea of work. We spend our mornings waking up and checking our work email. We stay late after a full work day in the office, and we don't have enough energy in the evenings for anything that we enjoy except for takeout food and binge watching TV. We squeeze all of our living time into the weekends or into the evenings, if you can muster it, and maybe in the 2 weeks of vacation that you have during certain periods of the year. So when people say, oh, it doesn't really matter if you have fulfillment through your work, usually I want to challenge that narrative because you likely are like most people and overworking, and you also are centering most of your life around work already. You're centering your life around preparing for work, for going to and from work, in your commute, from the work itself, and then from coping from your professional life, from the work that you're doing each and every day. And in my opinion, that is not really living. So when people ask me if they should align their purpose with their career paths, my response usually is there is not enough space in your career right now for any other purpose than work, and it's time for you to make a change in that. Shifting this narrative means shifting your life so that you can honor you instead, so that you can center your own well-being, so that you can spend your life creating something meaningful and beautiful in the world. And where I see people get stuck is that we have this sunk cost fallacy when it comes to our careers, because you've placed so much time and energy in this notion of settling, and so much time and energy believing that all you can do is pour into work and that your work funds the rest of your life. It's really hard to shift that thinking from seeing fulfillment in your career as a need instead of a want. And it's time for it to be treated as a need. Why? Because a lot of times there's a lot of hypocrisy in that initial notion. There's the hypocrisy of believing you're making money for your family so that your family can survive, even though you're not living a life that makes your kids proud, makes your partner proud, that makes your family proud, that makes yourself proud. It's saying that you're making money for them, even though you don't really have time to show up for them in the ways that you would like, time to show up for your community or the causes that you care about in the ways that you like. And as we reconstruct our relationship to work and reconstruct the meaning we bring to work, it's important that we really acknowledge the sacrifice that work is causing you right now. Acknowledge how that sacrifice is unique in today's day and age compared to previous day and ages, and really take a moment to acknowledge that, yeah, you can spend your time like everyone else defending your status of not being fulfilled in what you do, or you can just take a little risk on yourself and start experimenting with the idea of what greater fulfillment can look like. You can experiment with the idea of not shaming yourself for your previous decisions that have been less aligned, and acknowledge that this is just where our culture is right now, and instead begin to explore what a greater amount of joy and fulfillment can look like for you. So every hurdle and problem that comes along this way of achieving greater fulfillment and purpose is solvable. The biggest barrier is believing in yourself that change is possible, and then once you overcome that, you can make a choice to navigate whatever else comes your way. But what I'll also say is that the current way that most people live right now is a problem. So would you like to encounter the problem of things staying the same, or would you like to encounter the problem of making a change? Now, of course, I'm biased towards the latter, and that's what I help people do. You don't have to go through this alone. There's not a huge barrier of entry to make a change in your life. The only thing you have to do is make a commitment and show up for that commitment each and every day. So the second big barrier to purpose is not knowing what to do next. People always wonder, well, what is my purpose? And I want to completely normalize this, because most people fill their brain with other people's wants and needs for them professionally, right? You're taught to follow what your parents want from you and go for something stable. And then you're taught to go for what your boss or mentors want from you. And, you follow that because they're paying your bills. What other choice do you have? It can be really hard to cut through that noise and to connect with what you actually want, particularly when you're tired or experiencing a little bit of burnout. So the first thing I'm going to say is that you have multiple purposes that you can achieve in your life, and many purposes that you unintentionally fill. And none of those purposes are found through following the status quo approach that you're currently using to live your life. So hopefully this releases a little bit of pressure from this career decision, because the purposes that you fulfill in this lifetime is an entire book of decisions and the impact that those decisions have on the world around you. Right now, the question of purpose is just a chapter in that book. It's just a piece of a broader puzzle. So you shouldn't feel worried about getting it 100% right. That's highly unlikely to happen. It usually takes some iteration and some growth and some back and forth before you land on a path you absolutely love. It's possible to get there, and along the way you're going to be fulfilling other purposes that are tangential to what it is you actually want to do. What question you would like to answer in this phase of your life. Now, my free live training on purpose dives way deeper onto this idea of looking at each chapter of your career as a question you would like to find an answer to. And again, You can go to the free training. You can go to the membership if you missed the free training. It's November 8th. But for now, what I will say is part of the benefit of structuring your career around a question is that it allows you to be led by your own unique curiosity and integrate a degree of creativity in how you want to answer that question. What I always say is curiosity over careers, and that just means being driven by your own fulfillment, by your own questions, by your own uncertainty, instead of being driven by fear and being driven by scarcity and being driven by lack. And what this does is it gives you the opportunity to approach your career like an artist approaches a canvas and not like someone who's just trying to make it to the end of the day. So, for example, if the question you're answering right now in your career is how can I be around nature more in this season of your life, and you're a software engineer, answering that question can look like a lot of different things. It can look like studying nature and integrating your findings into the development of projects that you're currently working on. Or it can look like looking into e-waste and trying to find innovative solutions to reduce e-waste for people who are just using their laptops on a daily basis. I'm spitballing here, so if you're a software engineer, please don't come from me. But do come to the workshop if you want to have tailored advice on what this can look like for you. The third piece of all of this is the taking action step. And usually you've already done some actions that are supportive of your purpose. So look at what you do for fun, look at the enjoyable parts of your current work, look at the lifestyle you'd like to lead, and look at the people that you envy and the current connections around you that you would like to have in your network. By pulling all of these pieces together, you have the foundation of a strategy on how to move forward on your ideas. Using the software engineer example above, this can look like negotiating with your employer to have greater space to bring in concepts you love more directly into your 9-to-5. This can look like finding a job that supports your interests. And here's a key point: if you are exploring your interests while working a 9-to-5, I recommend blocking off at least 30 minutes a day or 3 to 5 hours a week to just focus on seeing projects related to your purpose through. I had a client who had a 2-hour commute by train, and she set herself up for success on her pivot by just using that commute time to focus on her purpose-aligned work instead of reading. And in the morning, I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself full time, but when I walk my dog, I always am listening to books, to articles, to interviews that are aligned with the direction I'm interested in taking my business, and also that are aligned with giving my clients a better experience. So I'm always learning up on the new things that are happening in my business. And this helps me be a better business owner. But what it also helps me to do is that it helps me make sure that the work I'm doing is always aligned with my purpose and what my purpose is emerging to be each and every day. So there's a lot of flexibility to allow this to work for you. Okay, so I hope that this episode has supported you in reconsidering your purpose. The training on November 8th is going to talk so much more about what purpose is, how purpose can completely change the game for you professionally starting right now, and also how to overcome some of the biggest blocks that you can experience in pursuing purpose and more. So if you aren't able to make it live, I highly suggest joining the membership so you can have access to this powerful training. And we are going to be defining purpose through additional supports and coaching for the full month of November. So you understand not only the direction of your purpose, but also the tangible and unique path that you have to take to get there. If this is something that you found helpful, if you liked this episode, please leave me a review. I'm a new podcast and I love hearing if whatever I say resonates with you. And if you believe this episode can help someone else, be sure to share it. Both of these actions help me a ton, and I'll talk to you soon.